Imagine standing on the shores of Java 700 years ago. Beyond the horizon lay hundreds of kingdoms you've never seen. Different rulers, different cultures, different languages. Most people would see an impossible dream. One man saw an empire waiting to be built. Only a few decades earlier, Java had been thrown into chaos. Kingdoms rose and fell. Kings were murdered. Ambitious rulers fought for power while old alliances crumbled. Then, from across the sea, came an enemy no Javanese kingdom had ever faced before: the Mongols. They arrived with a massive fleet, seeking vengeance against the king of Singasari. But by the time they reached Java, the king they came to punish was already dead. Instead, the invasion unleashed a chain of events that would change the history of the archipelago forever. From the ashes of war, a new kingdom emerged. Its name was Majapahit. Young, fragile, surrounded by rivals. Few could have imagined that this small kingdom would one day become the most powerful state in Nusantara. And even fewer knew that somewhere within its ranks stood a man who dreamed of something almost unimaginable. His name was Gajah Mada. Historians know surprisingly little about Gajah Mada's early life. No one knows exactly where he was born. No one knows who his parents were. The man who would one day dream of uniting Nusantara seemed to emerge from history almost like a shadow. He was not born a king. He did not inherit a throne. He did not command great armies. At first, he was simply one man among many in a young and fragile kingdom. Yet even in those early years, something set him apart. While others saw uncertainty, Gajah Mada saw opportunity. As Majapahit faced rebellions and threats from within, he repeatedly proved his worth. He protected the royal family. He helped restore order during times of crisis. Again and again, he demonstrated loyalty, discipline, and an unusual ability to lead. In a kingdom still struggling to survive, such qualities did not go unnoticed. Slowly, the man who had appeared from obscurity began to rise. With each crisis, his reputation grew. With each success, his influence expanded. And eventually, Gajah Mada attained the highest office beneath the ruler himself. He became Mahapatih of Majapahit. By then, he had already achieved what most men could only dream of. But for Gajah Mada, this was only the beginning. Standing at the height of his power, he began to imagine something even greater. Not merely a stronger kingdom, not merely a longer reign, but an ambition so vast that it would sound impossible even to his own contemporaries. In the year 1336, shortly after becoming Mahapatih, Gajah Mada appeared before the royal court of Majapahit. Ministers, nobles, and royal officials gathered inside the kraton. They expected promises of stability. They expected plans to strengthen the kingdom. Instead, they heard something extraordinary. Gajah Mada declared that he would not enjoy Palapa until he had brought the lands of Nusantara under Majapahit's influence. Bali, Gurun, Seram, Tanjung Pura, Haru, Pahang, Dompo, Sunda, Palembang, Tumasik. One after another, he named kingdoms and islands scattered across the seas. To his contemporaries, the idea must have sounded impossible. Nusantara was not a single country. It was a vast world of mountains, jungles, and oceans. Different rulers, different languages, different interests. Yet standing inside the royal court, Gajah Mada envisioned something no one else had dared to imagine. A Majapahit whose influence stretched across the archipelago. Whether the oath was a political program, a personal ambition, or a symbolic declaration, it transformed Gajah Mada into something more than a statesman. He became a legend. Making such a promise was easy. Fulfilling it would take a lifetime. Beyond Java lay powerful kingdoms, wealthy ports, and distant islands separated by enormous seas. Every expedition demanded ships, supplies, diplomacy, and men willing to sail far from home. Failure would mean more than personal humiliation. It could damage Majapahit's reputation and destroy the dream before it had even begun. Yet Gajah Mada did not abandon his vision. Then, in the year 1350, Majapahit welcomed a new ruler. His name was Hayam Wuruk. Young, intelligent, and ambitious, he inherited a kingdom that had survived its turbulent beginnings and was beginning to glimpse a greater destiny. In Gajah Mada, the young king found an experienced Mahapatih whose ambitions stretched far beyond the shores of Java. And in Hayam Wuruk, Gajah Mada found a ruler willing to pursue that vision. Together, king and Mahapatih would preside over what many later remembered as the golden age of Majapahit. Year after year, Majapahit expanded its influence beyond Java. Alliances were forged, expeditions were launched, rival powers were subdued. One by one, more regions entered Majapahit's sphere of influence. Slowly, the impossible began to look possible. By the middle of Gajah Mada's career, the oath that had once sounded absurd no longer seemed unimaginable. Yet one challenge still remained. To the west stood a kingdom Majapahit could not ignore, the Kingdom of Sunda. And the events that followed would forever change the legacy of both Gajah Mada and Hayam Wuruk.